Welcome back, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Welcome to the Healthier Ever After podcast. We are here talking now once again about general health and weight loss, and been kind of in a niche the last several weeks about hormones. Today, we want to talk a little bit about, we've invited back our special guest, Lindsay Ellsworth, nurse, soon to be nurse practitioner, and mother of three. So been through pregnancy. We really wanted to kind of focus in. We talked last week with Lindsay about kind of just this massive hormonal shift that the pregnancy and then the postpartum period causes. We wanted to dive into that a little bit more about kind of what pregnancy and the post-pregnancy period does for weight loss. And we've, our focus has always been kind of weight loss and then sustainable health, lifestyle things. And so we really wanted to dive into kind of how pregnancy affects that, like my weight loss goals or what is it doing to my body?
So I think even one other way to think about this and kind of how we wanted to separate this out is we kind of hit what can happen mentally with pregnancy and what happens to the mind, which is hormonal, and there's all kinds of depression or anxiety that can possibly happen as a result of this. And to add to that, you get to deal with the physical nature of pregnancy, which is just the most amazing and beautiful process that can happen in this world, but also one of the most challenging things a woman's body will ever go through.
Right. Yeah. Just the rapid, dramatic things that occur.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the hormones, how they drop off. Well, they also surge dramatically when you do get pregnant. And so let's talk about it. I mean, it's not just, we always think of the sex hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, and everything else that occur. But I mean, we're going to talk about what happens with your metabolic system, which we've hit on in many episodes before, unrelated to pregnancy. But there's actually a huge metabolic shift for pregnancy. So we're going to kind of hit it all, and Lindsay's going to help us navigate some of these waters, and we'll get it done.
All right. So Lindsay, you're living your life and you got a little exercise program and you're feeling pretty good about yourself, and you get pregnant, and it's easy for us to say, hey, that's going to be a change in your hormone, a big hormonal surge. But tell us a little bit about what that is firsthand.
Yeah. It's a wild ride. I'm still shook that every human got to the earth that way, because it is a wild.
Somebody went through that for every single person.
I can't believe it. I think, you get those big surges when you're pregnant, and the HCG ramps up and you start feeling like crap. And no matter how active and your exercise program, whatever you're doing, I feel like I'm a pretty avid and motivated exerciser. I love it, mostly for my mental health. But when I get pregnant, I get really sick at the beginning. A lot of women do.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating because you don't want to gain a bunch of weight during your pregnancy, which it is normal to gain weight during your pregnancy. But it's hard. It's hard for women to accept that mentality. But you definitely have to modify it during pregnancy. When you're super sick and you're throwing up every day, you're not going to be doing burpees like you normally do. So you got to do something different. And I think just remaining active through that is really important. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but just realizing, you get really sick and then you've got body aches and different pains in your body where you never thought you'd have pain. And, you've got to change things, and it looks different, but you can still be active during pregnancy.
Okay. But what I'm hearing you say is that still be active, but number one, motivation sometimes is an issue. And maybe we can talk about how to overcome that. I'm just imagining when I've, gained an extra 10 or 15 or 20 pounds and I felt unbelievably nauseated. I just threw up. I'm just trying to imagine the things I want to do. CrossFit is not going to be
Burpees,
anywhere near the list. I crawl under my covers and stay there forever is more like what I'm thinking. So how do you get motivated to stay and I'm not saying everybody does CrossFit, but if you're a CrossFit person and you get pregnant, but maybe you have to change to a walk around the neighborhood or something. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I think one thing that a lot of women don't realize is that you can keep doing what you were doing. Like some people are like, oh, I'm pregnant. I can't do
I can't do
burpees.
the thing.
If you feel like you can do burpees, like if you feel up to it, go ahead and keep doing what you're doing. But for a
Nice.
lot of us, and for me especially, like I am sick and I'm nauseous and I'm throwing up, and I thinking of doing burpees while pregnant just makes me want to vomit more. So
Even more.
yeah, I think
It makes me want to vomit at baseline. So
at baseline, yeah. I think a big thing is doing something that you can do. Like some days you feel better, so do extra that day, or you don't even have to do extra. Just do like what you normally would do.
Yeah.
Some days you're so sick that you can barely get out of bed, and that's okay too. And I think giving yourself grace through that period is really important. But yeah, go take a 20-minute walk instead of like a 5-mile run where you normally would. I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people don't talk about the utter exhaustion. Like I've never felt so tired in my life at the beginning of pregnancy. That's how I first know that I'm pregnant, is I feel so exhausted. With my last one, I was doing a bread class, and I was like, man, I am so tired. And I was like, oh shoot, like I should be starting my period. Like,
yeah.
so I mean,
Yep.
it looks differently, but if you feel up to it, continue to do what you're doing. But if not,
Yeah.
modify and do the best you can.
One thing I commonly talk to patients about, postpartum, in a lot of cases, weight gain or just weight gain in general, that, something is always better than nothing. I think that sometimes we get in our minds, especially as an active person, before you become pregnant, you're like, hey, I can't do my 90-minute, intense workout because I just don't feel up to it. And what I'm kind of hearing you say is that, like, okay, so you know what, be okay with just 10 minutes of whatever you want to do, whatever you can do. And you'll have some days where you feel a little bit better and you can maybe go for more like 30 or 40 minutes. And you'll have other days where, geez, if you got 5 minutes in, you got something done.
Yeah. I feel like in that first trimester too, it's really difficult when you do feel super sick. But if you just do something, then when you start feeling better in that second trimester, you can continue doing what you love to do during exercise, or like when you're working out. But just that first trimester, especially, just do what you can. Whether it, like sometimes I biked or I swam, which I normally wouldn't do when I'm not pregnant. So
Yeah. So as you get past that first trimester, and a lot of times the nausea sort of fades, but then you start to have more of these physical changes, the weight gain, and you talked about, it's normal. I mean, you're growing another human, and so there, 15, 20, 25 pounds. I mean, normal weight gain in a pregnancy is what, 25, 30 pounds?
yeah, 25 to 35, I think is the normal.
Yeah.
But
no, right, but
range, right? Like
there's a range, yeah. So if when we say 25, 35 pounds and you gain 50, that's not the end of the world. I mean, like it's going to happen, and that's okay. Yeah. And we'll talk about kind of what to do about that as well. But you're going to gain some weight, and that your body's going to feel differently. And so the burpees that you do, or the interval training, whatever, or just the walking is going to feel it. But you mentioned hurting in places that you didn't think. So there's some physical changes later on in pregnancy that, with just the size of the fetus and the growing everything, and that your body feels differently. And so it's going to be a little different thing to exercise, but just keep moving when you can.
Yeah. I think it's frustrating for a lot of women. Like you deliver an 8-pound or whatever baby, and then you're like, well, I gained 50. I think I legit gained 48.
I gained 50 pounds for an 8-pound thing.
I'm like, it's an 8-pound baby and then some fluid, but I still have all this weight. And I think that's frustrating. But, you got to give yourself some grace, and you do what you can throughout your pregnancy. Stay active and do the best you can, but give yourself grace through that period, because it can be really difficult to gain that weight and to have it after the baby's out too.
Yeah. Well, and I think it can be hard. Maybe you can speak to this, talk to people in the clinic, but I think it can be hard for someone who's, let's say someone's been on like a GLP-1, semaglutide, and I'm doing really well, and I've got to this my goal weight, I feel good, my clothes fit, whatever that is. I've got a good exercise program, I'm eating healthy, my portions are controlled, I mean, all the things that we talk about, and then gets pregnant and starts going through these hormone surges and weight gain, and I can't, and you don't take a GLP-1 when you're pregnant. Like, I got to stop my semaglutide or whatever that is. And so there are things that you have been doing that you can't do. There's expected weight gain. There's, and then there's insulin resistance goes up. I mean, that your body, and that's normal and natural. Your body doesn't want to keep all the good stuff and the glucose away from the fetus. Yeah. So all the things we talk about, like modulating during weight loss, kind of get messed up. But there are still things you can do during pregnancy, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're deliberate at that, like.
Well, and I think that's the biggest thing, is to recognize and Lindsay, you'd mentioned this on the last episode. You might even said something during this time, but having a little grace for yourself goes a long ways. You are growing a human being, and you should gain weight, and you're there to support that fetus to grow into that 8-pound baby, and hopefully everything goes well and deliver a healthy, happy baby. And I think that the one thing about the exercise, if you can, right? If you're feeling up to it, even if that first little while is pretty tough, hopefully the pregnancy, things calm down, you get past that first trimester. I think the benefits of staying active are both, yes, to help kind of combat some of that insulin resistance, maybe even some of that extra weight gain, right? We need to gain some weight, but maybe we're trying to keep it within that range and not trying to overdo it. That's where I think being active can really kind of help balance that out, where we know your appetite is likely going to be higher. We know that you're going to be dealing with metabolic resistance. And one of the ways to really kind of combat that, and not only that, but Lindsay, you had hit on the head, like for your mental health, right? Just dealing with the woes of pregnancy and what's to come, keeping active can help with all of that. And so I don't know, what are your thoughts on that, Lindsay, as far as using it as a tool to combat some of these things that you're going to be going through, during and after?
Yeah, I think, my 3 pregnancies have been very different and for different reasons. And I think with each one, I've learned a little bit more of how important it is to stay active. With the last one, it was really important for my mental health that I just at least went on a walk. In that first trimester, I remember I survived on Little Caesars breadsticks and root beer floats.
So good.
And that's all I could handle. And, I normally wouldn't eat that as my diet. Like you go from trying to eat protein and trying to get fruits and vegetables into that being the most repulsive food to you. And that's really hard, because you're like, oh, well, I'm eating breadsticks and root beer floats, so I'm going to get fat. But I think you do what you can. Like you're growing a baby, you give yourself grace and you stay active. Like you go on a walk if you can handle a walk, and it's a short time. Like it will pass, and you feel great during one of the days. Then take advantage of that and remain active. I think it gets harder later in pregnancy to, obviously you can't run and do the things like you normally want to. You feel like a whale. But I think just doing things you can do, biking. And for me, a lot of it was mental health, but I do think a lot of it too was helping me combat, like you were talking about, the insulin resistance, the extra weight gain that you don't want. And I think it helps with delivery and postpartum recovery as well, staying active throughout the pregnancy.
Yeah,
sure.
No, that's been shown. Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm just stuck now thinking, I much would rather have Little Caesars breadsticks and root beer floats than vegetables. Maybe I'm pregnant.
Yeah, I know. I've been pregnant for
42
years.
I would hope.
But that's a good point. I mean, yeah, you're right. Like there's some things that you just cannot eat that day or week or whatever.
And
I think a lot of times, and even talking to patients, like I said, this is just a kind of a good rule of thumb for what we're talking about now. But rather than, I think a lot of people and obviously pregnant women are going to go through this, is sometimes we can beat ourselves up a little bit if we have a bad day of eating, right? Mm-hmm. If it's just root beer and Little Caesars, and then you're like, oh boy, and I feel like garbage, I probably shouldn't have ate that. But on the flip side, what I've asked some patients to do is to broaden that range a little bit in these types of situations, and start to look at their diet. Like, what did I eat this week? Not what I eat today. So, because you're going to have days where you can hopefully get some protein and get some, fruits and veggies and things like that. So really try to take away that narrow focus of like picking apart something you on your worst day of the week, and try to broaden it out and say, how did my week go? Was I really, was I getting enough water? Was I, on the days I could, was I, getting the protein? Was I trying to get my fruits and veggies? And I think that does help mentality wise. If you can get out of that narrow focus and broaden that and see the forest instead of the tree.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And something, as you were speaking, I thought of was something my mom did for me during my first pregnancy, or maybe it was my second, I can't remember. She went to Trader Joe's and bought a bunch of different freezer meals. I couldn't eat the same thing multiple times, and a bunch of different things. So like I could go to the freezer and be like, okay, well, and they were all like pretty healthy or pretty well-rounded meals. But one, I wasn't cooking because I was not capable of doing all the smells and things, but just having some options where it's not ideal, but something different every day. I think that was really helpful. So I think if you can prepare that way, that's great too.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point, is like variety and that I know for sure for my wife, like variety was key, and there were certain things she just couldn't tolerate, things that she'd been eating forever. And then just during pregnancy, things change, but and definitely having a little bit of grace for yourself when it comes to the eating and the exercise, and knowing that this is a short-term state that you're in. This baby doesn't stay in there forever, and you don't feel like this forever. And just saying like, hey, we need to just get through a day at a time and try not to beat yourself up too much, I think is probably good advice for anyone.
Yeah.
So maybe we talk about like someone who's been very conscious about their weight and their diet beforehand, and then they're pregnant. I mean, you're expected to gain weight. There's healthy weight gain because you're pregnant. And the old adage is, well, you're eating for two, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to double your calorie intake, right? I mean, what are some good healthy numbers as a guideline for someone in that situation? I mean, you don't want to calorie restrict yourself to the point of being unhealthy and not allowing the baby to grow enough, but you also don't want to just, I'm going to eat everything all day, every day, because I'm pregnant. I mean, where do we want to kind of stay on? Are there numbers like that?
Yeah, I mean, the data really supports about 300 extra calories, give or take. I mean, right in that range. And Lindsay, you might be able to speak to that a little bit more, but it's not, well, if we're saying that people are on anywhere from 1,600 to 2,000 calories on an average day, it's not 4,000 calories.
Right.
And so it's really is a very modest increase in calories. Now, look, it's obviously there's going to be the logical side of you that says that's reasonable. I can do 300 calories. And then there's going to be, the times where you just feel like you could eat it.
And there's also going to be that day where like the only thing you can eat is a river float.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, obviously you've heard, like, I feel like everyone's heard you eat for two, but I think that you still can maintain and have conscious decisions about what you eat during pregnancy and try and have a well-balanced meal and diet.
Yeah, I really like what you said, like having that option to have a wide variety of things, just because the same thing gets super old or make you sick the next time, and so I think that's helpful. But it sounds like it was very deliberate as well, as far as trying to pick out some healthy options, but are different enough that let you kind of.
Yeah, moms are the best. Moms are the best. And I think it's important too to recognize that obviously your cravings shift. I know in my experience, like my wife would sometimes feel like this or feel like that. And just having a variety actually like that is pretty genius. I've never really actually thought of it like that. But that kind of goes for, I mean, not just this, but like, right, if we're talking about our average patient that's trying to lose weight, like having that variety, if you have the option to do so, to go like, hey, like what's going to keep me from leaving the house and going to Wendy's, because I know that's probably not the best option today. Maybe having some variety at the house where these meals are kind of ready to go. So you can kind of look at which one you actually are, oh yeah, that one actually looks good. If you have 72 of the same meals sitting at the house, well, I'm going to go to Wendy's because I can't eat that again.
100%.
Okay. So, I mean, having not gone through it, just hearing you, this is kind of like just some thoughts that I'm having as we talk
No,
about this.
So it brings back this vivid memory. My wife was pregnant, and very sick, and like you talk about the shifting cravings, right? And so like I remember one night specifically, she's like, "I really just need a pizza. I need this pizza." I'm like, "Okay, good." Like I'm on the phone. This is back before the internet, so I'm on the phone. Order the pizza, get it delivered. Like come, and in 20 minutes we have the pizza. It, like knock, knock, knock at the door. We got the pizza. It's like, honey, the pizza. You wanted a pizza, and like in those 20 minutes, she was like, "No, I can't. Don't even bring it near me."
Yeah, why did you order that?
And I'm like, "Dang it, we missed our window. We had like 20-minute window." But yeah, so those shifting things, I think that the variety is really helpful.
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me, and maybe this is like a shift in conversation a little bit, but I think when you're pregnant and you're gaining weight, obviously it's hard to gain that weight, but I feel like you're doing it with a purpose. Like, oh, I've got a baby, I'm growing a baby, and then you have the baby, and then you just feel like you're fat. Like there's no longer a purpose. And I feel like that was one of the harder parts for me of this whole process is the postpartum period where there's no longer a baby growing inside of you and you're just left with the residual fat,
Yeah.
So how do you get over that? Like, I mean, that sounds like really you have to convince yourself that the purpose still kind of exists, I would think, but I don't know.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, definitely it's a process. And I know I've said this 1,000 times, but give yourself grace. It takes time.
Yeah.
If you're breastfeeding, like some people lose a bunch of weight when they're breastfeeding. I don't lose the weight until I'm done breastfeeding.
That's my wife.
Yeah.
She doesn't lose a pound until she's done breastfeeding. And it's so frustrating for her. And it's interesting, the statement she makes, and I'm sure most pregnant women have felt this way, besides the 1%ers that just bounce right back immediately. But I've heard this statement over and over and over again. I've heard it from my wife. I've heard it from many patients in clinic that come and see me that are in that postpartum phase of like, hey, I'm ready to start, losing some weight and getting back in my body. Is I just want my body back. I am ready to have my body back.
Yeah,
and,
I think that's the most frustrating thing is not fitting into the clothes like you want to fit into them. And then when you are breastfeeding, you don't want to calorie restrict either. And that's a tricky thing to navigate because you still need to be producing the milk for the baby.
So you still have a purpose then.
Yeah, you still have that.
You got to convince yourself that you have a purpose still.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things, and this is just a small thing that I changed with my last pregnancy, is I went to the thrift store and I bought different size clothes because for me, it's a short time and I will get my body back. Maybe not exactly the way that it was before. It's definitely not how it was before, but I know that what the things I can do to help get that back. But there's a period in between that you're going to be a different size. And I think with this last one, I was so grateful that I went and got some in between clothes because
I love
that's part of it.
That's a genius idea. Like just a thrift store, nothing that you're going to spend a bunch of money on, some cheap options, but that don't feel wrong.
I feel like you're trying to squeeze into pants that really you just aren't going to feel comfortable in.
Wear something comfortable.
The most patients, the feedback I get from women are like their worst times for pregnancy and weight gain are the time when they're in that first to second trimester when you don't quite know if they're pregnant or if they've just really kind of taken on some bad eating habits. Like you know for sure.
Everything's just getting tighter.
And then after delivery, because now you're not pregnant, but you are bigger but naturally, right? Like by design, but they're in that state where you're like, hey, I don't have a baby in my belly anymore. So
my clothes should fit.
Yeah. So it's a tough transition. And so mentally, you have the baby. And so obviously you're going to be caring for this human life that, especially in the beginning, obviously is requiring a ton of attention. You're probably not getting a ton of sleep. What tips or recommendations do you have for women in this postpartum state where they're wanting to get back into it, but they don't really know what to do? Do you have anything, small tips, things, recommendations that they could maybe somewhere to start?
Yeah. I think it's tricky. And a lot of women, they call it like the fourth trimester. There's that 6 week period. Yeah. That 6 week
Never heard that.
I like it.
I like it.
where you can't exercise, right? You can't do very much because you just delivered a baby. And I think a lot of women, there's this pressure to bounce back, to be back into your body and back to what you were. But there's this 6-week period to 12 weeks that your body is healing and recovering from this major event that you just went through. And I think that's really important. I think you can like walk during that time. Just start slow, start going on small walks. At least that's what I did with my last one. And then you can do longer walks as you can tolerate more. And then once you get that clearance, you can start working back into what you were doing before you were pregnant. And it takes time. I think with this last pregnancy, it was hard for me. I felt really strong before I got pregnant. And then I felt pretty flaccid when I was done being pregnant because my strength wasn't as it was. But it has taken time. I'm 2 years out and I still feel like I'm gaining strength, but my body changes, and that is amazing. And it continues to get better every day.
So I like that 4th trimester to think about that. Yeah, you talked about, you've been through this experience. I mean, if you had a major surgery, you're taking some time off, right? Like the physical trauma that just occurred when you delivered a baby, whether that was a natural vaginal birth or whether you had a C-section, both are a big thing on your body. And maybe you could talk a little bit about, you mentioned walking. That's really considered the first initial safe kind of thing to do, is just get some movement, walk, but it's not like high intensity, stressful before, say, all your pelvic muscles are, like there's some good information about your pelvic floor and prolapse and all the things that, we don't want to make things worse by not letting it heal. Is that?
Yeah, 100%. If you go try and do some jumping jacks in that 4th trimester, you're going to pee yourself. And that's just part of it. And I think pelvic floor therapy is huge. I think, they say do Kegels. It's kind of a joke, but it's a real thing. Like you got to strengthen those muscles so that you can be strong. And I like to think of it as, for so long in my life, I fixated on a number of on the scale. And for me, it's become so much more than that. I exercise and I work out and I eat healthy because of how I feel. And I do it for my mental health and for my physical health. I just feel better and I'm able to take care of my children. I want to be the type of mom and the type of grandma that can be active with my children. And I think doing small steps like walking and then building up gradually, lifting weights, doing what you can every day to get back into what you were doing before pregnancy. I think that helps.
And I think what you kind of nailed that as well is not setting, I would call it like unrealistic timelines. We're not like saying I need to be back in my, my pre-pregnancy pants in 2 weeks. And on our, the podcast here, we just often talk about sustainable lifestyle change. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're talking about, is you do the things that you can, you allow your body to heal, you give yourself some grace, and you don't set these kind of unrealistic short time frame expectations on a clock. You're just working on being a little bit healthier ever after.
Yeah.
I like how in the previous podcast you guys have talked about small simple changes, like maybe not getting, like switching water for soda or doing small things. And there's a lot of that you can do during that postpartum period and throughout your pregnancy. There's small, simple changes and small, simple things you can do. Park far away at the grocery store. Just simple things you can do to help maintain.
I think the small things. I think the small things are a huge one. I also think when it comes to activity and exercise, most of the studies suggest, and I think that I have never actually seen a study that talks about this specifically for postpartum women trying to, get back into exercise, but I think it correlates. It has to correlate, right? I'll have to look into this a little bit, but doing activities and exercises that you enjoy and that you like, because really most of the research about weight loss in general says like, hey, yeah, of course we'd love if everyone, had a good variety of cardio and weightlifting. But in the beginning, sometimes just if you need that extra motivation and that extra help, sometimes just whatever you will do, whatever you like. And I think that goes a little bit undersold because some people think that they they need to do this in order to get this. But I'm like, in the beginning, I don't know what you feel about this, Lindsay, but like maybe just whatever you want to do at first, just because you will do it.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like it's really hard because you feel weak. Like your abdomen, literally, you have no core strength, no pelvic floor strength, and it's hard to do the things you want, like kind of like have these ambitious goals to do, but doing what you do like to do. I think one thing that helped me with this last postpartum period was I joined Orange Theory, and I'm not currently doing Orange Theory anymore, but that was a community where I felt supported and motivated to go to the gym. Like I felt accountable. And that was really helpful for me to have that motivation to get to the gym, as I had a friend support system motivating me to be there. And that was pretty powerful. I lost like 30 pounds in like a year and a half, just going to the gym and making conscious small changes.
So having someone to go with to motivate you was helpful as well.
Yeah.
Accountability is huge. I mean, it's in every study you can find on weight loss that looked into accountability. It's one of the biggest factors that will really to make weight loss and really just any healthy lifestyle changes predictable. Me and Rick have talked about this many times, and just having an accountability partner. I love when couples come in to the clinic, because now we have these accountability. You have a built-in accountability partner, and it's fantastic. And I love that. So I mean, if someone has that opportunity to do something like an Orange Theory or have a supportive spouse that you like to work out with, and that you guys can find things that you like to do together. It sounds like just whatever you can do that you like, and start incorporating back in some of those things that you really enjoy. And then of course, sometimes you can later on maybe start incorporating some of those things you don't love. Like I love lifting weights. I don't love doing cardio, but I know I should. And so I know I have to implement that, but maybe in the beginning it's not, especially postpartum, in that state where you feel, like you said, weaker, and just even mentally, you might be trying to like push through some things. Maybe just do what you can.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
It's good.
Any last thoughts?
Just be kind to yourself. It's a short time, and you will get your body back. I mean, maybe not like it was before. You birthed a child, and that's something amazing and something to be proud of, but it takes time.
Yeah, no, I like that. And that's kind of one of the mantras here as well, is that we're not talking about get something done this month. We're talking about the rest of your entire life. Be on a trajectory that leads you to health and feeling well. And there's not really a time limit to that. It's just what we want to try and do.
Yeah. Lindsay, thanks a lot for coming on here and just being vulnerable and letting us pick your brain about this stuff. I really think, obviously your experience as a patient can help a lot of people, anyone that ever, watches this and has it as a resource. And then to take that into becoming, I know you're already a nurse and practicing nurse. So to take that to your patients as a nurse, and then eventually a provider, I think is going to be so invaluable. I think that the fact that you really can predictively change thousands of people's lives and generations to come. And it sounds cheesy, but it's when you think about it, it's really not the impact you're going to be able to have. So thanks a lot for coming on and sharing all this with us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
For having me.
And with that, we'll end. Remember, especially when we're talking about this with pregnancy related things, breastfeeding, and we didn't even get into the GLP-1s on that, but that's a discussion that you should have with your provider, your medical provider, after you're done breastfeeding. If you need to get back on a GLP-1, and there's room for that. We can talk about that again, but have a conversation with your medical provider, and what we talk about here, we hope is helpful. It is for educational, informational purposes only, and should not replace your conversations with your regular medical provider. Once again, Lindsay, thanks a ton. We really appreciate it, your expertise and your experience, and being able to share with us kind of how that is. So thank you, and we will see you next time.
See you next week.